Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Unknown Experts, aka The Blue Corner. I'm Mike, as always, your host. We're coming right off of UFC 242 from Abu Dhabi, where we saw Habib Nurmagomedov basically manhandle Dustin Poirier for the better part of 3 rounds. Poirier did land 3 power shots and nearly sunk in a guillotine choke, but that led to his own demise, tiring out his arms and allowing Habib to take his back and get the rear naked choke with little to no resistance. So let's hop right into the news. Well, also first, Paul Felder surprised a lot of people by getting revenge on Edson Barbosa, winning a decision, redemption from a loss from 2014. But let's get into the news. First off, we got GSP making a random statement about Nick Diaz, saying that Diaz, in his opinion, is wasting his prime or has wasted his prime. He feels that he could have given Tyron Woodley some big problems and challenged him, and was probably the toughest opponent Woodley could have ran into. What you may or may not have noticed at the Abu Dhabi pay-per-view is that Chechen Prime Minister Ramzan Kadyrov was front row next to Habib's father and his quote-unquote henchman. This is the pseudo-dictator of Chechnya, put in power by Vladimir Putin over there, who some believe is having a secret genocide on gays in Chechnya, but denies it by saying that there's no homosexuals in Chechnya, and if there was, he'd send them to Canada. But this guy's a big MMA fan. We've seen Frank Mir and Fabricio Werdum go over to Chechnya to meet him for a fee, of course, and also frequent some of their local organizations with the Prime Minister. So it just gives you an idea of the extra pressure on Habib, since the Ramzan is best friends with his father and they go to mosque together. So no wonder Habib took those hard shots from Poirier and just pressed forward and wanted. I mean, you got to think about what a game changer having his father in his corner must have been. I don't know what your relationship with your father is, but I can definitely relate to he speaks, you listen, whereas in any other coach would be, yeah, whatever. But I mean, that's definitely made a huge difference in that fight. Let's go over to Bellator, where the main event was Ryan Bader defending one of his 2 belts, his heavyweight title, against Czech Congo. Fight ended in controversial fashion when Bader had Congo up against a cage while grapevining his legs. Congo claimed he got an eye poke. On further review, it appears to be a punch that either hit him in the nose or knuckle in the eye. Even though there was an errant finger around the eye, it doesn't look like it connected. The fight was ruled a no contest, though. So we'll see where they go with that, if they book a rematch or what possible reprimand Congo could face. Like, obviously nothing official, but like he may not get another crack at the goal now. Furthermore, on Habib, his manager just came out a couple hours ago saying that there is exactly 0.00% chance of Conor McGregor ever getting a rematch, and that Habib wants George St. Pierre and Tony Ferguson and then retirement. So we've known for a while now that his goal is to retire at 30 wins and 0 losses. So we know that he has a special addendum in his contract with the UFC stating that when George St. Pierre makes it possible at any given time, he has the option to take the fight. And George is showing more and more interest as the days go on, so this is not as far out there as it seems. George would have to lose a significant amount of weight to make 155 pounds. I mean, we're talking about a guy who just came back at 185 after being considered the welterweight 170 gold standard fighter. I mean, so it'd be interesting to see what he looks like at 155. realistically 165, 170 when he gets in the cage, but how bad the cut would look. But more likely would be the Tony Ferguson fight up next. And hopefully that'll happen, because we've had it canceled on us 4 times now. We also got Dustin Poirier saying the most logical next fight for him after this loss against Khabib would be a rematch with Conor McGregor. McGregor knocked out Dustin. Where was it? It was Conor's first fight with a top 10 opponent in the UFC at featherweight. He knocked out Poirier at about 3 minutes into the first round. So it'll be interesting to see where they're both at now, how different a rematch would go. McGregor, though, immediately answered back for the tweet Poirier of the tweet of Poirier suggesting it by saying that the usual spiel of "don't even say my name, it's Mr. McGregor, you all that, and then maybe I'll consider fighting you." So just the usual trash talking to try to stay relevant. I doubt the fight will happen. After seeing McGregor hit that old man in the bar and not even shaking him with that left hand shot, who knows what he's got left in him. Leon Edwards is not too happy with Colby Covington and Dustin Poirier and pretty much everyone else who's getting attention. Edwards came out and said, "Fuck Covington. He doesn't deserve the fight. He hasn't earned it. He's a shitty actor who's playing an angle," all this stuff. And also, Dustin Poirier has also said that he plans on fighting Colby on site for his remarks about his loss to Khabib. Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, that is official. It's set for November 2nd, UFC at MSG 244. They will make a one-time bad motherfucker, a BMF belt, that will be on the line only this one time, and the winner will have it in perpetuity. So, can't wait to see what that looks like after the new redesign of the UFC belts. And actual, real interesting news, though, UFC 245 in December has a rumor of potentially 3 title fights, because we know 244 in New York, they have said that Diaz versus Masvidal will be the 5-round main event, and there will be no title fights below it. So we'll only have one 5-rounder, the Diaz-Masvidal fight in New York. But in December, a month later, the rumor is that that's where Colby Covington versus Usman for the welterweight title will be moved to. We also know for a fact that Amanda Nunes will defend her bantamweight title against Germaine de Randamie, the only woman who's held a belt in her weight classes that she hasn't faced yet and beaten. And also there's the heavily rumored Max Holloway featherweight title defense against Alexander Volkanovski. And that one's out of the 2 maybes, the Colby Usman and the Holloway Volkanovski. The Volkanovski Holloway fight seems like it's a day or so away from being official. Colby versus Usman's hit so many bumps in the road, who knows what'll happen there. We also have breaking news about an hour ago of Ariel Helwani reporting that John Jones was eyeing a fight for December. He just put out a tweet saying, "Buckle your seatbelts," a couple days ago. Some news was coming, but now it's being reported by Ariel. It's official that Jones will not return this year. He will return in 2020 at some point, either against whoever emerges from the current lineup of light heavyweight fights that are booked as a clear contender, or when Santos returns for the rematch, because a lot of people feel that Santos maybe won that fight, or at least won 2 rounds, even though it was scored 4-1. That's a whole nother thing, though. But the rumor initially was that Jones would be fighting Jan Blachowicz, but now Blachowicz has signed to fight Jacare, who, by the way, that's news right there, that Jacare is moving up to light heavyweight, 205 pounds, in Brazil, November 16th, Jacare versus Blachowicz. But so the bullet point there is that Jones will not be back in 2019 unless something drastic changes. And something, maybe if someone falls out from the 245 card, they'll try to stick Jones on there against Stipe in a last-minute super fight. But it wouldn't make any sense. They'd want to build that up more. So yeah, Jones will probably be back January, February 2020. And apparently everyone wants on the 245 December card. Tony Ferguson says he wants a Khabib title fight there. Dana White is saying that the new strawweight champion, Weili Zhang, should be put on the card since she just won the belt in China. Her next defense should be in the U.S. I don't know why it would have to be that card, but that's what he's saying. Outside of that, we've got Justin Gaethje versus Donald Cerrone coming up on Saturday. Gaethje's coming off of a win of Edson Barbosa, knocking him out. He also knocked out his previous opponent. Who was that? James Vick. He knocked out in the first. He knocked out Barbosa in the first as well. Ironically, prior to that, he had lost to Dustin Poirier via knockout and Eddie Alvarez. But Gaethje will be taking on Cowboy Cerrone, who had his very promising win streak broken by doctor stoppage against Tony Ferguson after 2 rounds. Before that, he had dad mode Cowboy, as I like to call it, ever since he had his kid. He went on this tear of beating Mike Perry, Alexander Hernandez, and Al Iaquinta. The last of which, Al Iaquinta, was the hardest of those. But his eye was swollen shut in the Ferguson fight, and the doctors waved it off. So who would have taken that fight? I gotta lean Cowboy, because ever since Gaethje said out loud that he's the type of guy to go down on his shield and that he will get knocked out, it seems to be happening more and more often. Yeah, he's won his last 2 against good competition, Barbosa and Vick, but I think Cerrone wins by unanimous decision. He does enough. He stays aggressive. He uses his work. I don't know about a submission, because Gaethje's a really great wrestler and people don't know about because he loves to throw his hands. But I think Cerrone gets unanimous decision by using his strikes and keeping him at distance, if not catching him with either a head kick or a short strike. Cerrone's got really underrated short hooks. Glover Teixeira is taking on Nikita Krylov in the co-main event. That's a tough one to call. Both of them aren't in the best of places. I mean, Krylov is coming off of a win of OSP, but that's after a loss to Blachowicz, who, I mean, I know we're all hyped up on Blachowicz because of him potentially getting the Jones fight, him knocking out Rockhold, but I don't know, even though Glover's 100 years old at this point, came to the U.S. way too late, he has won his last 2. I mean, who was it? Carl Robertson, I think, he beat with an arm triangle, and he beat Kotalaba with another sub. I think it was a choke. But before that, Corey Anderson had beaten him. Gustafsson had beaten him. I think he fought Misha Kurinov. I don't remember the results. I think he won that fight. So if I had to pick Glover versus Krylov by knockout. Why not? Krylov by knockout or decision. Glover's just crazy over the hill at this point. You know, actually, Glover could find a way to use his jiu-jitsu. I mean, his last 2 wins have been through submissions. So we'll see about that. But I would lean towards Krylov, especially if you're gambling. Same with the main event. If you were gambling, take into account that Gaethje's got 1-punch knockout power, unlike Cowboy. But Cowboy is going to put a lot of pressure on him, and I think Gaethje will wilt. And oddly, the last fight of the night is the prodigal son Todd Duffy returning against Jeff Hughes. We also got Antonio Carlos Jr. taking on Uriah Hall. Marcin Tibera versus Augusto Sakai. Yeah, that's about the most interesting fights in the card. Just off the top of my head, I would go Jeff Hughes over Todd Duffy, Uriah Hall over Antonio Carlos Jr., and Tibera over Sakai. But either way, that's been the news. The main things to take away from it, like I said, UFC 245, not 44, not the MSG one, but 45. Everyone wants to fight on, apparently. And it could have upwards of 3 or more title fights. John Jones not fighting again in 2019. Habib has no interest in rematching McGregor. McGregor has no interest in rematching Poirier. And hopefully Tony Ferguson gets a crack at Khabib before GSP does. Well, I've been Mike as always. This is the Unknown Experts, or the Blue Corner, whatever you prefer. When it's solo, you can call us by either name. I'll see you guys next time. Stay tuned.